have had depression for as long as I can remember.
I was a very popular girl. I wasn't friendliest in high school, but I knew something was wrong. I absolutely knew something was wrong by the time I got to college.
I started having feelings of hopelessness, really in probably grade school.
The thing about depression is that it magnifies the bad and diminishes the good. Nothing good is ever good enough, and anything bad leads to crippling sadness.
Sometimes I feel ashamed talking about it. The stigma around mental health is so astounding that I really can't express it.
It's the feeling of not wanting to be on this earth anymore. I, to my core, don't think I deserve to be alive. And I don't want to feel like that anymore.
Major depressive disorder affects over 17 million American adults. That's 7% of the population. No one is immune from depression. Without medical treatment, symptoms can increase over time. Whether the depression is situational or the origin is related to brain chemistry, there's no quick fix. But treatments are available and they're improving. It's possible to challenge the status quo and reclaim well-being. Each person, once diagnosed, has embarked on a unique journey.
Major depressive disorder is a cluster of symptoms. It is a lack of ability to function in the world in the way the person wants to. They have a hard time getting out of bed, have a hard time eating, those type of things. You may not be able to pinpoint a certain thing that's happened that has created a lot of the feelings. Sometimes you can.
I was born in Japan and I was raised in Waianae, Hawaii. So that one's really blurry, but that's us at the cemetery. That's my grandpa's gravesite. My early childhood was extremely abusive in every facet of the word. This is my family. This is my sister and my brother and my youngest sister, and that's me. It's really blurry. It's a picture of a picture of a picture. We were emotionally abused, physically abused, and sexually abused. After vocalizing the abuse at school, we were then taken into the foster care system. I only have 3 pictures of my childhood, and you are seeing them today. That's all of our cousins and us. This is a picture of me and my older sister and my younger sister. We were like 13. My memory is shot. My childhood comes in flashes. There are like fern plants in Hawaii that are called like moi moi plants. Moi moi means sleep. They close. They close when you touch them. The first time I saw them was visiting my grandpa's grave. I was just running along the rock wall and touching all of the plants and making them all go to sleep. Whenever I think of a safe place, I think of that cemetery. I close my eyes and I think of that rock wall and I think of the moi moi plants. They only grow in Hawaii. I'm never going to see them again. My biological mother was in the Navy and my stepfather was in the Navy. I joined the Navy when I was 19 years old. And that's where I met my husband. I got my qualifications pretty quickly and I started to notice, oh wow, if I just work really hard and never take care of myself, I will be rewarded for that type of work. Well, I was a rock star in the Navy. I got Junior Sailor of the Year. I got a lot of awards. I have 3 Navy Achievement Medals. This is a picture of me shortly after I was given Junior Sailor of the Year award. And this is me standing in front of the show jet that now has my maiden name. The Navy gave me the external validation that I needed for a really long time. My diagnoses are PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, and alcoholism.
You know, I happen to be a gay person, and not a popular thing back in the day. You know, it still isn't that popular on many occasions. But when I face the stigma applied to mental illness, because I am mentally ill, the stigma is absolutely appalling. Yeah, my name is Kimberly Allen. You know, most people call me Kim Allen. In college, they called me by one name, Kim Allen. But for a long time, I was a coach. And so people know me as Coach Kim. So they'll say, I love to swim, I love Coach Kim. Yeah, I was a good coach. I taught every baby you know. I started surfing when I was about 11. Girls didn't surf back then, you know, and there was many a day I was out there with some long-haired boys and me, and my dad, I'd look up and I could see him driving by looking for me, and people would say, it's your dad, man. And I would hide behind my board like this. And my dad, I would come home with wet hair, and he was like, have you been surfing? And I'd say, no, sir. You know, and I was just drenched. My family's a beautiful family, I must say. My father was a physician, and I just loved him so much. Really brilliant, and gave me my love of reading and paid for my education. And my mom, I call her a sunbeam for Jesus. She's just beautiful. The way that I would describe major depressive disorder, I'm a surfer, like I told you, I was a water skier. It's like being rolled along underneath a wave, a big wave. And I'm telling you, you are not coming up. I was not coming up. My parents, I think, really were not that aware, to tell you the truth. This wasn't something that I talked about. To be better, you have to tell the truth about yourself. In my case, that included being gay. I was carrying a secret, so I drank over that. I didn't want to be different, and the loneliness and despair. My entire goal was to dull that for as long as possible, as often as possible. I went 3 times into psychiatric facilities by my own hand, you know, trying to get better. Antidepressants, they sent me rocketing upward. And I called the doctor and I just said, I just cannot do this. I'm just not making it. It was really, really, really scary. A kind doctor let me into a psychiatric hospital because they didn't know if I was psychotic. They just didn't know.
My name is Paul Carrington, and I live here in Olympia, Washington. I grew up in Alaska, in what started with a 2-parent household. But thanks to my mother's wonderful volcanic temper, it became a 1-person household. She discovered the Baha'i faith, and we flew around the state, bringing the Baha'i faith to everyone who didn't want it. I was small, I was skinny, I was weak, which was not a good combination in Alaska in the 70s. There was so many emotional explosions in the house. I'm getting beaten up at home verbally by mom. I'm getting beaten up physically at school. In my senior year, my mom died very quickly of cancer. I was about 17. Friends took me in so I could finish my year of high school. I kind of couch surfed, and that was when I realized, man, I am really alone here. When COVID started, it was really hard for me. I have an app on my phone that plays coffee shop noises, so I can feel like I'm in a coffee shop writing, because I cannot handle being alone in this silence. It's actually dangerous for me. I'm not the first person to say this, but the opposite of depression is connection. For 20 years, I have purchased some old typewriters, and now I have too many, and I write letters on them. And people love getting these letters that came from an actual typewriter. I live on this great piece of land in Olympia, Washington, that I bought about 1.5 years ago. It's an older house, but it's on half an acre of land. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I've gone through 3 lawnmowers, they keep breaking, I don't know what to do with them. My grass is growing like 3 or 4 feet tall. I finally bought a scythe. And now I'm out there like some reaper, hacking away, and then people will stop, and they'll look, and they're like, okay, kids, stay out of that yard. But it is so much fun, and it's actually very peaceful. You know, you get into emotion, Your blood's going, but it's not like you're doing CrossFit. You can see grass just flopping over. It's so much more satisfying than pushing a mower. It's wonderful.
It's like waterboarding, but with hugs.
My early ways of coping with depression were through humor. I grew up listening to stand-up comedy. I learned to seek out the sad parts of my life and turn them into humor so that I could find something positive in those. The first time I sought treatment, maybe I just had my son. It was probably 1990. That might have been what made me realize I need to get a hold of this because I get to be a dad. At that time I thought, well, I got that out of the way. I don't need any more of that, I'm good. In 1994, I decided to try doing stand-up comedy. I didn't realize that stand-up comedy is the loneliest job on earth. You spend so much time alone in your car. Every 20 seconds, your boss, the audience, is judging you, and it's pass-fail. From Winnemucca, Nevada to Nacogdoches, Texas, I have bombed all over this great country of ours. But when you're bombing in Spearfish, South Dakota, and you're 1,500 miles from anyone who likes you, and you gotta walk off stage in that Holiday Inn Express bar. It's so embarrassing. And I did it for 13 years.
My son's name is Tavi, which is short for Tavita. Tavita is Samoan for David, and David is my husband's name. He was an aviation mechanic and he was stationed in Japan for 5 years, and he wasn't there for the birth of our son. For my son's first month checkup, we went into the doctor and they handed me some paperwork. A part of that paperwork was a wellness survey for myself. Some of the questions were, do you ever feel like not waking up in the morning? Are you constantly sad? Do you ever feel like taking your own life? And I thought this was normal paperwork, so yeah, yes, no, I feel like shit, yes. And I turned in the paperwork. I didn't know that you were supposed to lie. So many people lie on that paperwork. And mind you, throughout this entire journey, my husband was stationed in Japan and I was alone. My child was taken from me and I was sent to a medical facility the same day. If I had not been honest, if that psychiatrist had not immediately had me hospitalized, I would not be here today. It was awful and I missed my son very much, so I lied. I lied a lot, and in 4 days I was released. 2 months later, I decided to take my own life, and I took a large amount of prescription pills and called the suicide hotline. I'm still a very new mother at that point, and my baby was in my arms, and I was hospitalized again. In my thought process, I thought I was such a piece of shit. I could never be a good mom. I could never be a good wife. I could never amount to anything. The thing to snap me out of that was I have been in the foster care system myself, and the thought of my son having to go through that because I couldn't get my shit together, I just could not. I would never ever do that. And that's when the train started rolling on. Let's figure out what we need so we can be here for Tavi, because no one else will love that boy as much as you do, and you know that. My husband is strong in every sense of the word. You need a really loving and supporting partner. My husband is supportive in my mental health, even though I have these mental health conditions and I may need more help than some people. His ability to create a safe space for me to grow as a parent, as a mother, as a business owner, his ability to stand there and say, I will help you, is why I'm still here today.
I think what got me into therapy the second time was I was believing things that I knew were not true. I spent months in therapy convinced that my son would be better off without me. And he lived with me. I was a single parent at that point. The initial treatment plan was talk therapy and also to get a medical doctor to prescribe me antidepressants. And I was so lucky that that's worked for this whole 20 years. In the beginning, I went off and on every now and then. I thought, oh, I got this, I don't need this. And then clearly I did need it.
Antidepressants relieve symptoms of major depressive disorder, but finding the right prescriptions and dosage requires trial and error, can take time, and may only provide a partial response. It's not uncommon for patients whose medications have worked for a long time to plateau or even regress. It's often up to the individual with the support of family or loved ones to keep fighting for improvement by changing or adding medications or other therapies.
After my diagnosis of major depressive disorder, I was prescribed an antidepressant, I was prescribed medication for my anxiety, and I was prescribed medication for my nightmares. I met with a therapist weekly, and I also met with a psychiatrist bi-weekly, and they constantly asked me about updates for the prescriptions I was prescribed. They suggested I go to therapy weekly, and they also suggested I go to group therapy at least twice a week. It did make my lows less low, but there was no high. I hit a plateau. There just was nothing. I was just in a fog.
These two things right here make the difference between me being married successfully or bone-crunching depression. These are my deep water lifeguards out here, so if I need them, they're there for me.
Although there is no one clear path to curing depression, there are many effective treatment options in addition to antidepressants. Clinicians and their patients may add adjunctive therapies, both pharmaceutical and lifestyle changes. And patients report that other options, like changes to diet and exercise, can be helpful.
I left comedy in 2007 after 13 years, and I was at sea for 3 years. I did not know what to do with my life. Then in 2010, I discovered storytelling, personal storytelling. And I found this show in Seattle, which is about an hour north of me. I called the people up and I said, I used to be a comedian, but I wanted to start telling stories now. And the first story I tell on stage in Seattle, people say, oh, we want you on NPR. And it was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I've been telling stories on stage for a couple years. It was a great, great time. And then a long relationship I had been in for 7 or 8 years ended. I just couldn't handle it. It was devastating. It was so painful that one night at the end of 2012, I tried to end my life. I slowly pulled myself out of that pit because it was really scary for about a year. I didn't know if I was going to do that again. And after about a year, I realized I need to talk about my suicide attempt. And I knew if I could talk about this on stage, this really painful and also embarrassing thing, that I was going to make it.
I found an 800 number out of nowhere, and I call up the suicide hotline, and I get this guy on the phone who could not have been less impressed with my little situation.
But what I didn't understand is that it would also be powerful for the audience.
He said, pal, are you sure you don't have a gun in the house? I go, yes, I'm sure I don't have. I'm vegan. We don't usually have guns, all right? And he goes, oh, vegan, huh? Concerned about your health, are you?
When people came up to me at the end of that show and told me about their experiences, people they'd loved who had attempted or even succeeded, they were thanking me. And nobody was telling me that I was weak. I had never seen an audience like that. That made me feel so incredibly connected to the world.
Every morning when I get up, I start paddling because this illness is nothing to be messed with. And I get on, I start paddling, and I just move out. And I can feel this energy behind me, and I can also feel the pull of it. So I can go either way.
Depression is always about a chemical imbalance, and the situations can absolutely cause the chemical imbalance, but sometimes the chemical imbalance is present in someone that doesn't necessarily or can't necessarily identify a situation that has caused that.
How are you? Pretty good. I can't complain too much. You know, I'm dealing with my med change, so. If I would have had no medication, without any antidepressants, I couldn't have tolerated, I wouldn't have made it, I just wouldn't have made it. But antidepressants did not completely fix me. I remember they would ask me, do you feel joy? And I remember saying, joy? I couldn't even relate to really what they were talking about, and I would think about that, and I would watch other people and think, I think that person's having joy. It's like opaque, trying to reach through that, and I knew that I had to do better than that.
For me, depression is a little bit like being the star quarterback and sitting on the bench after throwing a really bad pass and having belligerent fans right behind the bench. They're just yelling and they're upset. They're yelling, hey, you should end your life. You're not a good mom. He should be taken away from you. I did so much research on what other people were doing. We'll have to supplement elsewhere. Let's eat healthy, let's walk, let's meditate. And that's where I found my routine. Every day I walk at least 2.5 to 3 miles just to kind of clear my head. When I'm on my walks, I touch everything that I can so I can get a little bit of whatever minerals or life that they have in them. I'm listening to soothing music, podcasts about empowerment, and then coming back, doing some stretches, some meditation, and then drinking black tea and journaling.
The last 15 or 20 years I've been on an antidepressant, but for a period of time, about a year, I did add an anti-anxiety medicine just for emergencies. I didn't take it every day, just when I was realizing I was falling into an anxiety attack. I realized after a few years that I needed to do more than just take this pill. It was keeping me from sinking into the depths, but I would sit on the couch and say, I want to be happy. And then one day I realized to be is a verb. Maybe I should do things that make me happy in order to be happy. So I would exercise, I would get out of the house, I would say yes to invitations with friends, and most importantly, I decided to be of service. If I heard someone was moving, I would be the first one to say, okay, when do I show up? How can I help? I get a friend who's going through cancer, and I said, let me take you to chemo. No one's gonna ask you, because we're all too embarrassed to ask for help.
When I can see a wave of depression coming my way, I start working right then. I don't wait to say, am I depressed? But what I have to know is I can do this. And so the second I feel it, I tell myself, Kimberly, you can do this, get to work. As far as adding or changing medication for me, I'm an ex-athlete, I've always had a coach, and those prescribers are my coach, those therapists are my coach. If they tell me to add a medication, I do it. The things that I do that are non-medication oriented, because I will not live just okay not doing it. First of all, I box 3 days a week.
You got about 30 more seconds. Don't get me.
And it's the rhythm. It's just like being on your board, you know, your depression, in my case, it's gone.
All right, good job, and time. All right, 30-second mark, let's go and pick it up.
I drink water, I cut out all sugar, all carbohydrates. I started coming up out of it. I started realizing that there was a surface on the water, and I just started kicking up.
At some point during the first few months of COVID, I just decided to drive around friends' houses and drop snacks off on their doorstep. And then I would text them, the snack fairy has arrived. Enjoy your carbs. Look, I have empty calories for you.
He wants to cause delight in other people. One time he even put little paper clips through them and hung them on the tree like ornaments.
Hey, it's a snack fairy, man.
Oh my God.
There's some love in a bag.
Thank you.
Bag love.
I love you, Paul.
I love you too, man.
I spar with this guy named Nick. He's a hard guy to catch, so I just live to strike Nick.
One of the best ones made. Sweat channels,
Nice.
shock absorption.
I don't think humans are as highly evolved as we think. You know, when you see someone coming at you like this, you know, this is a guy who's bigger than me and he's stronger than me. You know, it's like a silverback gorilla. It's like all hands on deck, you know, get on your toes and move, move, move. My endorphins go up, my heart starts beating, and there he is.
There it is. Nice. Again, that's it.
My boy Nick, I've gotten him, and I haven't taken him out, but I know when I get a point, and that's the way I look at my depression. I'm like, not today. I'm gonna take you out. No, I'm not going anywhere. I had a blast. Here we are. Still here, we're still there. That's right.
Best friends.
Yeah. No, we're mates.
The patients who reach for more, who don't give up and settle for the status quo, who keep working towards improvement, will find the right path.
So exciting.
I've lived here for almost 2 years now. When I started my new routine in Fort Worth, Texas, I would walk around my neighborhood. And one day I pushed myself to walk even farther, and I walked past an empty lot. In that empty lot, I saw very similar plants to the moi moi plant. And I was like, well, that's not it. This is Texas. Then finally one day, I was having a really shit day, a really, really bad day. I was walking past those plants and I was like, you know what? Today's the day to be disappointed. So I bent down and I touched those plants. They immediately closed and I just cried. I cried for like 30 minutes, just like, what the f***? You've been here this whole time. I really needed you. And now I walk past every day and I just touch those plants and they close, and it really has been a super huge lesson for me. You can definitely find it elsewhere. It just takes time and it takes you actually going to look for it. Depression, it won't go away. Me and those fans are gonna be fans for life. I am getting better at saying that has nothing to do with me. I'm still gonna go for this walk. I'm still gonna meditate today. I feel like I am becoming a new person. The old person could not see life beyond being a badass sailor. The old person would have killed themselves on the job.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Absolutely Not. I am your host, Katrina Stroll, and I am dedicated to providing examples of setting personal boundaries at work and the vocabulary needed to name harm in those spaces.
I hope that more people understand that they are worthy regardless.
That vocabulary includes words like gaslighting, discrimination, and abuse.
Before I leave my office, I tell myself that I am a kick-ass person and I deserve everything that's going for me right now. Even if somebody else doesn't tell me that, oh, you met those quotas today, here you go, employee of the month, da, da, da. I'm giving that to myself, and I will never, ever have to get it from somewhere else.
Otsuka and Lundbeck are proud sponsors of One Mind to accelerate progress in brain health.